Well, while Venezuela's opposition tries to find a way to unseat the president, Nicolas Maduro, the economic crisis becoming increasingly difficult for people to bear. CNN's Rafael Romo had a first-hand look at their struggles. He joins me now with more. We were both down there a week or so ago for a while. You went out and reported on those struggling the most.
Yeah, Michael, you also saw it because you were part of CNN International's coverage of Venezuela, how bad the situation is. And everywhere we went in Caracas, we ran into people struggling to make ends meet, families who are unable to feed their children 3 times a day. The need is so great that some are willing to put their health at risk in order to make enough money for food. This family is waiting by an open-air market. In just a few hours, the fruit that doesn't get sold will be disposed of, and that will become their only meal today. Things are very difficult, this woman says. We can't buy anything with the money we make. At a nearby park, Marbeli Hernandez and her children waited all morning long until a Good Samaritan showed up. How long did you have to wait to get food? Several hours, she says. This is 21st century Venezuela. There's an abundance of rhetoric and propaganda and a shortage of food.
All social classes of Venezuela are struggling to get enough food. Everybody's trying to make ends meet and looking for alternatives to feed their families.
A seasonal fruit has become the go-to food item to satisfy hunger. How affordable are mangoes right now? They're very cheap, she says. It's mango season and prices are very low. There are so many families that depend on mangoes that the tropical fruit is now known as the hunger suppressor. This market coordinator says some people have mangoes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The purchasing power for the average Venezuelan has collapsed due to hyperinflation. These are cachapas, a national dish in Venezuela, kind of like a pancake made out of corn. Each one costs about $2. The problem is that most people here in Venezuela make an average of $5, which tells you a lot about how difficult it is for families to make ends meet. Some people are so desperate that they're willing to put their health at risk, like these men looking for metal in a river that carries sewage. Socialists who have governed the country for 2 decades are calling on people to fight for what they call 21st century socialism. You need to produce something in your own home, this national leader says. It's one way of defending the motherland.
Y produzca algo ahí en su casa.
Back at the park, Marbeli Hernandez keeps waiting for food. What happens during the rest of the week? How do you make ends meet? There's no easy answer. Her eyes are full of tears, but her stomach remains empty. Elsewhere in the city, 2 men knock down mangoes from a mango tree, while the hope of striking gold keeps these others waiting in sewage. And at markets around Caracas, entire families keep on waiting for the garbage that will become their breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And a study by 3 Venezuelan universities published in March shows that 80% of people in Venezuela struggle to get enough food on a daily basis. The International Monetary Fund predicts inflation in Venezuela, listen to this, will reach 10 million% by the end of the year. One of the worst cases, Michael, of hyperinflation in modern history.
I mean, a stunning, about 10 million%. How do you get your head around that? I mean, where do you see this going? And one thing, when we all went down there, it was because there was a sense that Juan Guaido was saying this is the end for Nicolas Maduro. Didn't happen. It all slid back into stalemate. Where does it stand now politically? No pressure being put on him.
Yeah, as long as Maduro has the weapons, nothing will really change. And that's what Juan Guaido was trying to change on April 30th. Made that appeal for the military to change sides. But the reality, and we saw it in the images, the military at the moment are not suffering. They're well fed. It is the middle class. It is the lower classes that are suffering, people who are hungry. And the reality is that to be able to get these images, we didn't really struggle that much. They're everywhere, not only in Caracas, but throughout the country.
Yeah, I remember you told me when you filmed those guys in the canal. I'd gone out and done a story on the elderly, and you were telling me about that. And it's hard to describe to people what that water is like, right?
I mean, it's sewage.
Yeah.
It is the one canal that runs through the city that collects all the sewage in the city. And the reality is that those people being in there are risking their lives just by being there. And that tells you a lot about how desperate they are.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. By the way, before I let you go, when Juan Guaido says intervention underway, he's not meaning US, he's meaning Russia and
Cuba and Russia. His point is that for years, Cuban officials and Cuban spies have been in Venezuela intervening in the internal affairs. And also Russia, as you know, in March sent warplanes. Russia says that it's only technical personnel helping the Venezuelans repair their airplanes. But the United States, of course, is very worried about that.
Yeah. Rafael Romo, great reporting as always. Good to see you, my friend.
Thank you.